So the way Richa was thinking that it was thought-provoking, I think it was for every parent also, every mother here and every father here. But what is the food for this AI? So what Yogesh sir is going to talk about is the food that we are going to feed this AI with. So Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni, a passionate about guiding individuals and organizations to effectively leverage artificial intelligence. With over 20 years driving CAD engineering research and software innovation, he aims to provide specialized expertise and counsel to clients exploring or implementing AI and machine learning solutions. He holds advanced degrees in mechanical engineering, reflecting his lifelong dedication to understand the advancing technology. Yogesh sir, we are really grateful to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Over to you.
Good morning. How many of you have heard my talk or any talk before? Wonderful. This being an agile conference, I thought, although the topic is rather generic AI, most of you would be AI practitioners and agile practitioners, I'm assuming, right? So even the topic is generic AI, at the back of your mind, you should have some thought of how I'm going to use this for my work. So for making user stories, doing burnout charts or whatever, preparing reports or other things. The reason I'm telling this is that there is no agile component in the presentation. So it's up to you to do it yourself. So I've got this talk divided into 3 parts. First part is rather semi-technical. Not fully technical, semi-technical. Some jargon here and there. That is introduction to generative AI, Gen AI. Okay? Right from rule-based up to Gen AI. All that progression I'm going to explain. Second one would be slightly technical, very slightly technical. That is, what is prompt engineering? Okay? And the last one will be highly non-technical. We'll do hands-on exercise. Even with your mobile, if you have ChatGPT access or whatever, we'll do some exercise, some prompting here and there. Okay? That's the idea. So we'll start with introduction to generative AI, Gen AI, right from the beginning, right from scratch. We'll tackle these questions. What is generative AI? What is not generative AI? Because everything is not generative AI. We'll try to answer that question. And how is it related to these other terms? AI, artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning, DL, deep learning. How is it connected to these terms? And one of the issues is that these terms, AI, ML, DL, are being used synonymously. Everything is AI, ML, right? But that's not the case. We'll try to distinguish, we'll try to understand the nuances, the differences between these terms. Then we will be able to appreciate what Gen AI is, and then of course, how Gen AI is used via prompt engineering. That's the whole idea of this talk. All right. This slide is by NVIDIA. Okay. By the way, in the introduction, I think one thing was missed, that although I'm an AI advisor, practitioner, and consultant, I'm a teacher also. I teach at College of Engineering, Pune. I teach machine learning. So so at least at this time, I'll treat you as my students, okay? So what that means is that I'll ask you also questions. Is that okay? Yeah. All right, wonderful. Although some of you are senior, more senior than me. So there are 3 things shown: complete AI, and there is on x-axis, there is timeline. So AI is not born yesterday. AI has been there for 60, 70 years, okay? Right from 1955-56, there was a conference where AI term was coined. So right from there, AI has started. What is AI basically? It is basically what we consider as intelligence if computer starts doing it. Very simplistic definition. Or software starts doing it, that's AI, right? Intelligence done artificially, that's AI. So that has been there right from 50s. Machine learning is one part of it, okay? These are the techniques where data is used. If you have data, what is called as labeled data, We won't go into technicalities of it. If you have labeled data, then you are doing, or unlabeled also, machine learning. You have to have data, then you are doing machine learning. Deep learning is part of machine learning. They are not synonymous. As you can see, it's a subset relationship. One is bigger set, another is subset, another is subset. This is where neural networks are used. We are doing same thing, what is called as classification, regression, grouping, everything, predictions, everything is done. Whatever machine learning is doing, if it is done by neural networks, then it's deep learning. It's as simple as that. Okay? Now my first question. Okay? This is using data, this is using neural networks. Then there is some AI, which is this pale green, which is old AI. Some of you have gray hair here, which is not machine learning. What is that AI? Anybody who can remember their college days? Got the question? There is some AI which is not machine learning, isn't it? There is some pale green portion. And it has been there from 50s. No. No. Wonderful. Rule based. Everything was hand coded. These were called as expert systems in our old days, right? Even though they showed intelligence, there were chess programs in our childhood also. They were intelligent, but they were hand coded. Here, in machine learning, things are not hand coded. Data is given and the logic comes out. We'll see that. Okay, that's the idea. Got at least basic idea? These are not synonymous terms. At least outside for the marketing and sales people, that's okay. But if you are technical enough, so this is the main difference between traditional rule-based programming and machine learning way of programming. This is the most important slide in the presentation. The rest you can ignore. And if you understand this, good enough. What is this? Very simple thing. There are some inputs, there is one output, and something happens in the middle. Right? That's about it. So in the traditional programming, we have inputs. We want to do something. You write the logic, and then return the output, return the result, right? That's the way all functional programming or normal procedure programming happens. Machine learning is dramatically different. In machine learning, specifically what is called as supervised machine learning, we give inputs as well as outputs. See the difference. In the traditional one, we gave inputs only, we wrote the logic and output came out, isn't it? But in machine learning, we gave input as well as output. What is output? Of course, the output has to be from past. So input and output of past, what is called as data together, is given to computer and the logic comes out. That logic is actually some weights and some models. This is the dramatic difference. That's why machine learning is very popular, because some problems are very complex, where you cannot write rules. But we have data. For these inputs, this thing happened. For this pressure, humidity, whatever temperature, it rained or not. Right? So if you want to do weather prediction, whether it will rain tomorrow or not, there may be 16,000 variables affecting rain. You cannot write rules for that, right? It's very difficult. But we have the data from past that for these 16,000 variables, it rained, it did not rain. It rained, it did not rain. So the whole crux of machine learning is, given these inputs meaning input as well as output, it figures out the relationship. That's the power of machine learning. And if the same problem, if it is solved by neural networks, then it is deep learning. Good in session? Yeah.
In essence, is nothing but statistics.
It is also a statistics. So he said what is right. There were statistical techniques, 200 years old techniques, what are called as regressions, some correlations. These are also are part of machine learning, but there are some other newer techniques also. Good enough? So we are doing basics in the first 1/3 of the session. Why we are doing machine learning? Problem of high dimensionality, as I said, weather prediction, 16,000 variables. Dimensionality means variables. These many features are there for the problem. Very complex problems, you can't do it with rule based. That's why we are doing machine learning. Simple. It is hard to program it manually, difficult. too many variables, and of course there are jobs. That's why we are doing machine learning. That's the difference. I won't go into subtleties. As I said, deep learning needs or does it by neural networks. But there is another subtle difference. In machine learning, we have to do what is called as feature engineering. We have to find features or variables, but here you don't have to. You can give raw data. It's not needed for today's session. All right. Generative AI. This slide is slightly incorrect. Okay. So machine learning, deep learning, and they have shown generative AI as part of deep learning, which is slightly correct. All the techniques that are there, which are used at the back end for ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, are deep learning based, are neural network based. That's why it was shown that. But there are still techniques which can be rule based, which can be ML based. Doing generation, so they are ML based Gen AI, but the popular ones are neural network based Gen AI. Okay, that's why it was shown inside. I won't go into this. All right. So when we say generative AI, there has to be an AI which is not generative. We're specifically saying the right generative AI. So what is not generative AI? It's called as discriminative AI. Some new term, new jargon for you to speak later. Meaning, given a data, you analyze the data and say whether it is a cat or a dog. It is analysis of the data, finding insights from the data and doing predictions. So that is discriminative AI. But in generative AI, we generate the output. We generate it one by one. We'll see the example. That's why if you use ChatGPT, if you watch very closely, it generates word by word. So even if it is a classification, even if it is a prediction, it generates word by word. So output is generated, not discriminated, meaning not analyzed per se. All right. That's what it is. Labeled data, input as well as labels, output comes as one of the predefined labels. So simple problem, whether it will rain tomorrow or not. Inputs as well as yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, all those. And the output is yes and no, that's it, right? Same problem can be done in ChatGPT also, generative AI also, but the word yes and no is generated, not analyzed, right? That's the difference. So, question to ask, at least typical interview question is, when we are searching in ChatGPT, how is it different than the Google search? Anybody? Google search, you ask what is the capital of India, it will give you New Delhi. ChatGPT will also give you New Delhi. What's the difference?
It will actually try to. So it will actually try to analyze that data and give the results from itself, from his side, rather than referring to the Google.
Correct. Okay. We'll try to answer this question at the end of the session, right? At least you should have that answer ready. Got the question? This is a very important question to ponder over. If you're asking a question, what happens in Google search, what happens in ChatGPT? Same question, same answer. All right. Then there is a term called, I'm going a little fast because of the time. We used to have models, now we have foundational models. What is this difference? When 4, 5, 6, 7 years back, we used to do machine learning. For a weather prediction, we will have one model. For sentiment analysis, meaning whether this tweet is positive, negative, neutral, we'll have another model. So there will be model per task. For each task, we'll have different model. What foundation model is, it can do many tasks together. It can do classification also, it can do summarization also, it can do Q&A also. That's why it can do multiple things. That's why it's called foundational model. Another distinction is, if you are doing only in text, so it is a single mode. But if you are doing images as well as text, as well as videos, as well as sound, this is multimodal. So these are some terms which are used very frequently or rather freely. But this is the meaning behind this. All right. Same problem. Let's quickly, how much time do I have? Good. Let's just see the progression. Same problem, solved rule-based way, machine learning way, deep learning way, Gen AI way. Okay. Say you have been asked to do product review analysis, meaning some people have put some comments on your product. You just want to count how many positive reviews are there and negative reviews are there. Simple problem, it's called sentiment analysis. How would you do it rule-based way? Any idea? Some tweet or some product review has come and you want to declare whether it is a positive review or a negative review. Anybody? Simple crude logic is good enough.
Yeah, based on keywords or if it's star rating, then based on star rating, I'll
Just
put a
text based, any idea?
keywords.
Yeah. Find positive words, find negative words. If positive are more than negative, it's positive. Simple. But language is not that simple. At least in Pune, the language is very different, right? I would go hungry but eat your pizza. I would go hungry but eat your pizza. Everything is positive, but the sentiment is negative. You see, right? No positive, no negative word has been used. That's the speciality. So that's why rule-based fails. Then you build machine learning way. Then there is something called NLP, natural language processing, where we use training data and then build models to find whether it is positive or negative. How is it done? We give thousands of examples. For this review, this was positive, this review, this was positive. Give thousands of such examples and it finds out the relationship. If the same thing, instead of classification by algorithms like logistic regression or decision tree, if it is done using neural networks, that's deep learning. Got same problem, rule based. Machine learning was using supervised labeled data, deep learning using neural networks. How is it done in GenAI? Anybody? Prompts. Prompts is the way we use the models. So we'll give, please do sentiment analysis of the following thing and answer it. That's about it. So this is the progression, same problem but different techniques. In reality, just prompt engineering is not typically good enough, because if it fails, what do? So you may have to go back and build ML models, DL models, or even rule-based logics. In enterprise, that's the way. You have to have hybrid solution. All right. So I'll just skip this part. We'll slightly come towards our main topic, generative AI. And the technology that is used behind it is what is called as large language models, isn't it? LLMs is what you have heard. What is language model? Simple definition here. When you are typing SMS, you typically get this predictive text in the middle, right? Let's go for a. If that's the case, it will say either movie or a coffee, right? How it is done is a very simple example. In your past 100 SMSs, if you have done 20 times movie and 10 times coffee, right? What will it do? It's a movie. Simple statistics, count based. Similar logic, which is sort of rule based, statistical. If the data is not your 100 SMSs, but the whole world, that's the power it has. So language model is nothing but the phenomenon where you predict the next word. That's about it. But once you predict the next word, that word goes behind, then you predict next word. That's how you create the sentences. That's how you create paragraphs. At least in the earlier days of ChatGPT, if you watched very carefully, you would see word by word generation. Now it is very fast, so you don't realize, but everything that ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude does, it's word by word. It's just predicting the next word. That's about it. So this is the way, this is called as language model. And why it is called large language model? Two reasons. Because it is trained on large corpus, large data, whole internet, publicly available, everything is in the training. That's why it is so powerful. So large for the data part of it, and this is large for another part also. Their logic neural networks are large. GPT or ChatGPT has what is called as GPT 3.5 behind it. GPT is generative, pre-trained, transformer. That's one of the architectures used. 175 billion parameters. That neural network has 175 billion weights that it has trained on. So large is for data as well as network. That's why it's very powerful. I'll show you one comparison which will dramatically open your eyes. You don't have to remember the words. When I started, we had BERT. Albert is one of the BERTs, bidirectional encoder representation transformation. This is just 4, 5, 6 years back, okay? 12 million parameters, meaning parameter is one of the ways you can measure the size of the network per se, neural network. 12, whatever, and something happened in 2 years back in November. Can you see? That's it. GPT 3.5 is actually similar to GPT 3, the chat GPT. This mega jump actually changed the world. Such a powerful model, completely trained on whatever is available on net. That's why it's very, very powerful compared to all the earlier techniques. All right, I won't go into technical details. This is the architecture used behind. This is not a forum to talk about it. I'll have another 1 hour session on this probably later. So these are some of the things Google has come out with. Transformer is the architecture behind which was developed by Google, 2017 paper. Anybody knows the paper name? Those who are technically inclined. Attention is all you need. And one of the co-authors is from Pune. Hint. All right. So these are the things. And the way we communicate with generative AI or chat GPT is what is called as prompts. Whatever questions that we type in are called prompts. And whatever the answer that comes out is called as, anybody, technical term? It's called as completion. It's not response. It's called completion because it is completing the prompt. It is doing it word by word. If you do, anybody who is doing OpenAI programming, the API is called as completion API because it is completing your prompt. So prompt is what we will see. I'll forget this for now. So far, okay, anybody? So we saw some progression, rule-based, machine learning, deep learning, some Gen AI, and now we are coming to the second session, prompt engineering. What is prompt engineering? Is it apart from just asking a question? Anybody? Is it just asking a question, what is the capital of India? That's about it? Then why this session, right? Why this session? There are further nuances to it. Because whatever the output that ChatGPT or whoever is giving is very verbose. Verbose meaning lengthy. And typically, if you are building software on top of this output, then this verbose output is not good enough. We'll have to process the output, then take the decision further, then do another task. We want very crisp, well formatted output. Then only we'll be able to process the output and take it further, isn't it? Because this prompt and its answer is going to be part of some bigger picture, isn't it? The whole game is about how to get correct output. So asking such a question that my output is correct, very crisp, and only what is needed. That's where the new jobs are coming, prompt engineer's job. So prompt is nothing but input that goes to language model, large language model, and output is the generated text one by one. Simple. All right. I won't go into this for now. Now onwards, as I said, as you being agile professionals, you should have something in mind. How can I use it for report generation? How can I use it for user story generation or whatever, right? In your own domain. Simple, some examples that everybody might have done. This could be a prompt, given a paragraph, explain the above in one sentence, summarization. This is what you do, right? By the way, these are some of the techniques. If you give context and ask question, that's good enough. Some generic Google-like questions you can always ask, but these are some of the ways in which prompt engineering can be done. Some applications basically, summarization, and the output will come out like this. People have used this, right? Summarization way. There could be other ways like classification, information extraction, does wonderful job. Given a paragraph, mention the products. So this is typically in NLP called as named entity recognition, NER. Find out persons, organizations, money values in the paragraph. Why it is needed? This typically is done manually. Let me give you an example. Given a paragraph in a contract, legal contract, find out parties in the contract, right? This is a big task. This is a commercial task. People go there, read the contract and put it in Excel, right? But if you have GenAI given a paragraph, find out the parties in the contract. What is the effective date? What is the end date? What is the contract value? If it generates automatically, nothing like it, right? This is ROI, right? Whatever you are doing, it is being automated. Same thing can be done prompt, but prompt has to be very correct, or else it will start doing something else. All right. Question answering, that we are very much familiar with. Given a paragraph, do question answering. Classification, sentiment analysis, classification, product review, positive, negative, whatever. These things can be done. These are only scratching the surface. This is just tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of use cases apart from this. But as I said, you should think at the back of your mind how you can use it. All right. Conversation. How much time do I have? All right. I want to keep some time for the exercise. That's why I'm rushing fast. All right, code generation. This is the biggest threat today, if you have seen. How many of you are coders who write code daily? You have to think twice. Because it is doing such a wonderful job. It is yesterday's case. I had written an agent function which will take some document and write test cases out of it automatically. But I wanted to have UI in top of it, web UI. So I gave this code to Claude and asked it to create a Streamlit UI for it. And it did it wonderfully. Without a flaw, the UI ran as is. I asked my wife to do similar thing for her code. She also got it wonderfully done. So what this means is, if you're aware of how web UI is done in your past or whatever skills, you just have to look at it, look for the flaws and done. You don't need an intern now. You don't need software engineer 1, software engineer 2 now. You directly start as a fresher, as a lead. Because you just have to review the code and get it submitted. Isn't it? Getting the sense what I'm doing? That's how powerful this GenAI is, and this is the free version of GenAI that I'm using. If it is a paid $20, $2,000 PhD level, then we are done actually. So it writes code. Programming wise, it has gone ahead. Maybe philosophy, thinking wise, sentiment wise, it is still lagging behind. But code wise, it has millions of examples from GitHub, Stack Overflow, everything is there available. All the languages are covered. It is very, very good. Very, very good. And this is personal experience. AI is not hype. Right? This you should take from this session. AI is not hype. It can generate SQL queries automatically. You give English sentence, it will generate SQL queries. And those queries work. All right. It can do mathematics, problem solving, step by step. By the way, there is one news, one model, of course I don't remember the exact name of it, it has beaten the Olympiad level problems. Meaning, I'm assuming, including myself, most of you could not crack the Olympiad problems. It has gone ahead. It is not beating human intelligence. It is already ahead and doing super intelligence. It is, in the specific task, it is far better than humans. That's what I wanted to convey. So whatever examples that we saw so far were text examples. Of course, there are other modalities, image, sound generation, video generation, other modalities are there. For this session, just text, but as you can see, given a prompt, it will generate images, and many people are already using it, at least in the marketing and social media. Some of the tools, very famous ones. This is how you use it programmatically, just for the sake of it. 2 or 3 guys probably would know. Same what you do in ChatGPT as a UI, you write some prompt and you get an answer. This is how it is done. If you are doing it, writing a Python program, JavaScript program or whatever. You have to set the model, you have to set the key, and you have to ask the prompt. And the API is a completion API. The response is what you get. So this is what happens at the back end, right? So I just wanted to give you a flavor. This is how it happens, and everybody who is developing apps does this. Of course, it is OpenAI API key, but you can have Claude API key, Gemini API key, other API keys. All right. Everybody has some ChatGPT access or Claude access? Yeah, please take it out. We'll do couple of prompts. Those who have laptops, well and good. If not, I think there is app also, and if not, web, directly browser. This is rather funny. This is third session, then I'll stop. We'll see how a simple prompt can be enhanced further, okay, and see the way output is generated. You can use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you have access as a free one, okay. By the way, this is asking for a recipe of a sandwich. Feel free to change the dish, okay? If you want to do something for misal, vada pav, whatever, right? Up to you. But the whole idea of this part of the session is the progression. We should not stop at the initial prompt, but enhance it further to get exact recipe what we want, okay? So we'll type couple of recipes first, or other prompts first, and then later I'll just explain, because you may not be able to type in that fast. Type in this one, very simple one. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This of course is taken from Western world. Okay. So no predefined questions. Explain how to make misal or whatever. Kolhapuri misal, whatever. Puneri misal. But if you want to stick to this, that's fine. It's sticky anyway, peanut butter. And just have a look, very cursory look of what the output is. Everybody who has got peanut butter and jelly sandwich recipe, just see it and remember it. We'll see the modification that it does, okay? Now the next prompt is, now you are asking somebody to do it. Now you are making, as a chef, explain your assistant to do that thing. So this is what is called as role assignment. When you put a prompt, I'm just giving you some theory behind it. Always explain the role. Explain quantum physics to a 5-year-old. Explain quantum physics to a physics PhD. The answers will be different. So you just assign some role to that guy. As a chef, you do this. So typically my prompts are, you are an expert in say quantum physics, then answer this. So what happens, it goes to that narrow band and then starts searching. So has output changed? Now it is more directive, meaning do this, that kind of thing. Okay. One more thing. So some authority has come in the picture. So as a chef, you're asking assistant to do it. Now this is what is called as some constraints. So we saw role definition. Now we are seeing constraints. Typically constraints are in a blog, do only 500 word long blog, 800 word long blog. So you are giving constraints to it. Make nut free version of the sandwich because customer has nut allergy. Peanut butter without nut, okay? Has recipe changed, the ingredients changed? Right, it has substituted. We'll just do a couple of more and then we'll just see the other ones. Correct. Although with this very simplistic and so-called childish, naive example, we are just seeing what can be put in a prompt and very serious prompt. So role definition, constraint definition, you have to put it in the prompt itself, okay? Then you will get proper results. So adding constraints, adding examples. This is one of the most important thing that you should remember. This is what is called as few shots learning. Few shots meaning examples, okay? Zero shot meaning no examples are given in the prompt. Few shots meaning some examples are given in the prompt itself. Similar to examples, do this. Okay. Now what I am saying, create two unique variations of classic sandwich, banana nut crunch, dot dot dot. I am actually writing the recipe because of the brevity. In the slide I did not put the recipe, but I should have written, you need not type this because dot 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 is not known to you. And I am giving two examples of recipes. Okay. So this is what is called as few shots prompting. In the prompt itself, say for sentiment analysis, what would you do? Please do sentiment analysis of the following paragraph. But you will give one example, paragraph, sentiment, paragraph, sentiment, paragraph, sentiment, couple of examples. Then ask the question that for this paragraph do sentiment analysis. Getting what I am saying? You give examples in the prompt itself. So what it does is, it follows exactly what you are doing. How it can be leveraged? Because if you want certain output in certain specific format, JSON format, some dictionary format, key value pair, you give that structure there and there itself, then it will follow to the T of it. Okay. So few shots prompting is extremely powerful. So role definition, constraint definition, and few shots prompting. So for your user stories, you give the format itself. So who are the assigners, who are the evaluators, who is the project manager, what is the timeline. So that structure you give in the examples, one or two examples, then get it done. Some tricky cases, if you are asking to schedule, okay, schedule it in the ascending time order, right? If you put that in the prompt, it will try to do it, but it may fail because of some numerical things. If you see that it is failing, give those as examples. This day should be before this day should. All the debugging that happens typically in the enterprise and prompt engineering is solved by few shots prompting. Okay, because we are giving the bug examples, how the bugs are corrected. All right. Later, of course, all right. Adding contextual example. Now, what is the context here? You are part of this big restaurant. Now you do this. So the same sandwich, if you are a chef in Taj, let's see how the recipe changes, or Hayat. Let's see, Hayat Pune. Is there any change in the recipe? So this is not a normal roadside restaurant doing sandwich, or this is Hayat making a sandwich. Yeah. This is the context. Typically this is done if you are asking certain question and you want answers from the legal parlance, not scientific parlance, right? Then what do? You have to define the context, where I am coming from. That part is to be mentioned before. All right. Got any examples? The Hayat ones are little more polished, right?
The ingredients, they're
more expensive.
hyped up,
Hyped up,
organic and everything.
Maybe caviar in the sandwich or whatever, or truffles. All right. In the past, when you gave the recipe, of course, this is the secondary prompt. This happened. Now change it. So this is the conversational part of it, right? You did something, but later you can mention that I want a little less sweet or whatever, right? So this is conversational feedback that you can incorporate. Time constraints, as I just mentioned. I'll just go fast. Yeah. Some example you need not type. Now forget the taste of it, the ingredients of it. I want to look good. That's about it. This is for the competition. Make it visually appealing. So the ingredients would change. The whole progression is because you want nicer output, nicer report. You want output as PPT deck, you want output as a PDF report. Everything can be done just in the prompt itself. I use it day in and day out. If I want to create slides like this, this is a format called as LaTeX, LaTeX. So all these presentations, my content is ready. I asked it to format it in LaTeX. Copy it, compile it, create PDF. That's it.
Sometimes it gives two
Correct.
responses.
Correct.
So in that case, which
So this is
response should we
typically
select?
A/B testing kind of thing, meaning it is giving you both responses. It is asking you to choose which one is right for you. So this goes back as training in their model building next time.
Yeah, and in the end it gives which is the response that you will select
Correct, correct.
is
So
for you. So when we click that button, that is a learning for
the model,
chat
for the model training, right? So sometimes it is doing your own testing, right? Getting feedback from you.
Thank you.
All right. Some more things. This is again some part of preference or constraint only. So I'm just not going to stretch it forward. These are some of the examples how you can enhance a prompt. Very simplistic, naive example though, but think of it as doing in your day-to-day job. So maybe last few slides and I'll be done. There are many techniques now. This is what is called a chain of thoughts, which is very popular. Tree of thoughts, graph of thoughts, reflection, self-reflection, self-constraints. All right. I have to. All right. So, as you go on practicing yourself, there is a site called DAIR. I'll probably mention that. There is a prompt engineering guide if you want to take it further, but those are highly technical techniques. Chain of thoughts, tree of thoughts, graph of thoughts, self-reflection, self-constraints, many things. For day-to-day job, these techniques are good enough. I'll mention that. Just a prompt engineering guide, DAIR. This is the GitHub repo where they have given the tutorials of prompt engineering. But these are highly technical if you're interested. Somebody can search if it is DAIR prompt engineering guide. This is where I started with. All right, 5 minutes left. All right. Self-criticism, many things. Chain of thoughts, self-concern, many things. I'm just skipping it now. I'll have a couple of conclusion slides and then I'll open it up for questions, okay? 5 minutes left. This is the progression actually. Now I'm going back to my earlier slides. In 100 years back, 200 years back, we had statistical techniques like regression, 200-year-old technique. That's also machine learning. Then we had neural networks, that's deep learning. For textual data, it is natural language processing. For large data, we would need neural networks, large model, but we had only one model, one task. Now we have one model, many tasks. So this is the way we have gone ahead. What's next now? Anybody? Multimodality and AGI. Multimodality meaning any type of data, not just text, image, text, whatever. Any type of data and super intelligence, not just in Olympiad, but in all possible areas is what the next frontier is. All right, some quotes. Essentially, when we were programmers, we would write Python, C++. Now we are writing programs in English because somebody else is writing program in C++. Right? That's what. By the way, this guy is wonderfully has got nice videos on how to develop ChatGPT. Karpathy. He was part of OpenAI team. So that's the summary. I'll just skip that for now. How does it affect us? At least those who are developers. We used to do algorithms. Now we started curating data for machine learning and deep learning. Now we have started doing prompts. This is the change that has happened. Progressively better and better. Progressively hard to debug. When we wrote algorithms, we could change it if the bug comes. Here we had to change the data because we could not change neural network much. Here we cannot do anything but pray. Right? What can you do if the result doesn't come? You cannot contact Elon Musk, right? Change Grok. No, you cannot change Grok. All right. New jobs, although some jobs will be lost for sure, new jobs will come. prompt engineers. Prompt engineer is not writing prompt, it is actually subject matter expertise. And then some understanding of how the model works. All right, some of the, these are just papers. By the way, self-promotion now. I do what is called as sketch notes in a single page summary of the topic. So this is my sketch note on prompt engineering, handwritten. You can search, it's there on Medium. Prompting is all you need. If you type that, you'll get a single page, print it out, and then you'll get basic idea of what prompt engineering is. My another sketch note called ChatGPT has also gone viral, so as to say, some 1.5 million views. All right, freely available. Yeah. Oh, you can get the nicer version at this site. You can download it. Ah, no problem. That's about it. I'll open it up for questions now. Just 1 or 2 slides. This is the one, the DAIR, that what I mentioned. Free, wonderful techniques. Yeah, no problem.
I have a question.
Or else I'll be here till lunch. You can call, talk to me offline. Yeah, sorry.
Sir, I have a question for you. Sir, here.
All right, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kulkarni. It was wonderful presentation. My question is, can AI get frustrated? Because a few days back, I was trying to curate a presentation for my son, and I kept on giving a lot of prompts to it. The final answer that I get after 15 prompts is, humans have good intelligence. Probably you're not getting the right answer. Why don't you try curating it yourself? So no, this is a fact. I couldn't actually. I wanted to take a screenshot of it and wanted to circulate it around. But can this happen?
So let's understand why this happens. And our perennial question remains: what is difference between Google search and this? Why this happens? Because the model that it trained on. Okay. Sorry. It is trained on world data, whatever people have done before. Okay, let me just give the answer to that Google question also. Google search is when you type something, it goes to its database called index and fetches it like an SQL query. Fetches it. But what happens in ChatGPT or other large language models? This question has been answered 1,000 times at different places. Right? What is the capital of India? 1,000 people have answered it, New Delhi. So it is saying that 1,000 times, like in SMS, New Delhi has come. So it is generating New Delhi. So it is generative and not fetching, right? That's the idea. In your question, if similar conversation has happened in the past, 10 questions have been asked and then somebody must have been frustrated because of this, that same answer is being put. How to check that? If you ask very uncommon question, what has happened to this Ganpati temple in Kasba Pet? It won't answer because it just doesn't know. It doesn't have intelligence per se. It is just able to generate very coherent answer if it has seen in the past. So this frustration or being sentient is what we have observed. It's because the data has observed it. That's why it is just reflecting. It's just reflecting what the data said.
My question is that as you being a professor, you talk a lot, right? So spoken English is different and written English is different,
Correct.
right? So have you ever tried typing, because you write something, let's say, tense, and then the way you want to speak,
Correct.
have you
Got it.
tried that? Yeah, because
So whatever AI that we saw was large language model, meaning text-based language. It was trained on text, which is written text, only written. But there are speech models which do accents as well as written text. For this written text, this was the spoken word for it. And they can mimic the tones and other things also. But these are different models. Those who are multimodals can do speech as well as text. Yes, it's already available. So Many, I think Whisper and others one. These are, you just query for sound to text or text to sound models. ChatGPT not, but other multimodal models. I think Gemini you can ask those questions. We'll have to check. This is
Audience, I understand that, we have so many questions to ask Yogesh sir. He is available here with us, so please do meet him and connect with him. Yogesh sir, it's so humbling today to have you as our teacher for this session, and we all your students here. So the way this session was conducted today reminds me of what Amber said yesterday, that if you are able to connect with your audience very well, half thing is, you've won it. So thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and thank you, Yogesh sir, for such an insightful session. May I please request Abhijit Shah sir to honor Yogesh sir.
just in case needed. I am there on LinkedIn and not other social platforms. My full name, Yogesh Kulkarni. If you type it in LinkedIn, you can follow me. Can't connect, connections are full, so only follow me there, okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you are a wonderful teacher and we were good students.